New Macs are here and it's time to find out the truth for you guys. We have 5 here, we have 7 more coming in, so make sure you guys are subscribed. And in front of me, I have the new M2 Pro MacBook Pro, and we already found a bunch of things that other reviewers did not mention, both good and bad. So in this video, not only are we gonna take a look at the exterior differences and physical ones, which yes, there are multiples, but we're also gonna test out the CPU performance, the graphics performance, throttling, fan noise, and heat, along with battery life, because both these are charged to 100%. So let's go ahead and unplug these and get into this ultimate comparison. Now the laptops themselves look identical, but we have some differences. First off, the power cable now comes with a matching MagSafe connector, which is nice if you're getting space gray. With that, the M2 Pro MacBook's HDMI port is a lot more powerful. The M1 Pro does 4K 60 Hz, now we're up to 4K 240 Hz, which is better than any other system out there, along with 8K 60 Hz. Now unfortunately, we still don't have Face ID inside of that large notch, but one thing that reviewers did mention is that the webcam did get better. Taking a look at these two side by side, the M2 Pro's 1080p webcam is a little bit cooler, it looks a lot sharper, and it just looks better overall because of the new M2 Pro chips ISP, so that is a benefit. Now we also have differences in speakers, which nobody mentioned. Now I'll let you guys hear the difference, but first I wanna mention that we are not only giving away a 14-inch MacBook Pro, but also a Mac Mini. And all you have to do is 1, be subscribed, 2, enable notifications, and 3, comment down below. And you can watch your previous M2 Pro MacBook launch videos and comment there, and our new ones all the way up to February 1st, which is when we are gonna be announcing the winner. So good luck to all of you guys out there. And now let's go ahead and take a listen to the speaker differences. Now I'm not sure if you guys can hear the difference even with our $850 microphone setup, but the older M1 Pro 14-inch has brighter highs and it sounds louder as well compared to the new M2 Pro version. Now Apple actually did this with the M2 MacBooks where the highs are brought down, they're more muted, and Vadim and I both definitely prefer the older 14-inch MacBook Pro, especially for vocals and movies and things like that. Let us know which one you prefer down in the comment section below. Now we've also heard talks of Apple downgrading the internals of the M2 Pro 14-inch, so we're gonna take the bottoms off and look at that. But before I get into that, I've gotta talk about the best MagSafe iPhone case I've ever seen, the Magic Stand case from our partner Casecoo. Not only is it surprisingly slim and durable, but it comes with a very strong 48 magnet MagSafe ring that actually doubles as a stand. Just pull out the ring to use it as a finger grip or as a stand for watching videos at any angle between 40 and 120 degrees. And the best part is that it folds back completely flush with the case, so you can still use it with your MagSafe chargers and accessories. So use the link down below to get 23% off your order today. We have the M1 Pro right there on the left side, and on the right, let's take a look at the M2 Pro. All right, and Vadim.
What's up?
Look at that.
Oh,
what is that?
Are you serious?
It's confirmed. Not only is the M2 MacBook Pro and M2 MacBook Air consumer devices for people to do web browsing and email slow down in terms of SSD, but this $2,000 14-inch MacBook Pro, nobody can argue this time that it's fine because it's for consumers that don't do anything. On a $2,000 Pro device, we have one SSD chip, memory chip right here, instead of 2 on the M1 Pro. You guys could see there's 4 spaces for them. If you have 2 terabyte one and above, you'll have all of them filled. Whereas this time, we still have 4 spaces, but they're only using 1. Now, if you look at the prices for these chips, they're fairly inexpensive, but a single 512 is barely any more expensive than having a 256 gig. And then of course with those you have to buy 2 of them, which is why Apple is just using 1. That also saves time on getting these installed, labor, all of that kind of stuff. So that is a disappointment. We're gonna see how much of a speed performance difference that actually makes. I also wanna mention the Wi-Fi. this new M2 Pro comes with Wi-Fi 6E finally and better Bluetooth. So I actually spent a ton of money upgrading my home Wi-Fi in order to be able to test this out and see how big of a difference does that actually make. So make sure you guys are subscribed for that. Now, most of the things look the same, but there's one big difference that I just noticed. Look at the heat sink, this copper cover or aluminum that is over the M1 Pro and the M2 Pro. It is way bigger on the M1 Pro. This thing is tiny, and this section right here, this little tape that's covering a little metal guard, the actual metal part that has the heat is literally, what do you think, Vadim, half the size?
Yeah, close to half.
Close to half the size. Now, we are gonna run some thermal tests, see, does it get hotter, does it get louder because of that? There's less mass that's connecting, that's covering that chip and that heat can hold into. That definitely has me a little bit concerned. Now, this is the base model, of course, but you can get more cores with the same exact setup. So we'll be testing a higher end configuration soon. And now that they're back together, let's test out the SSD speeds. I'm using Amorphous Diskmark 4.0, gives a lot more info than Blackmagic's test. And right away, we could see that the actual SSDs are different. We have this one ending in R, here with the new one ends in Z. Let's go ahead and run this. Oh my goodness, Vadim.
Woo! No way.
That is sad. With the M2 Pro, it's still fast, way faster than the M2 base MacBooks or Mac Mini. But look at that insane difference in sequential speeds. Now this one runs a bunch of tests with different block sizes. We have almost 7,000 here, 6,981 compared to 3,462 for the read. And then for the write speed, 5,763 compared to 3,373. Almost half the speed for the new $2,000 M2 MacBook Pro. Now, I have to say that in this machine, you have 16 gigs of RAM. You're not gonna run into swap as often, but we do know it still does run into swap. And being able to read that data almost twice as fast can impact the performance. And people said that for those base MacBooks, like the M2 MacBook Air, most people don't use that for productivity. It's a cheaper device, but this is a $2,000 Pro machine. So here's a full breakdown for you guys. And what I'm personally really curious about is, does the 16-inch $2,500 model also have SSDs that are way slower? Or is it the same performance as it was previously with the 16-inch? We will find that out soon. Now I wanna give you guys an update on the battery life before I get into the tough benchmarks, because we've been shooting for a while now, doing a bunch of various simple tasks, and the M1 Pro is at 92% battery life, and the M2 Pro is at 96. So we're already seeing a difference with those efficiency cores being much better and having 4 instead of 2. Now I also noticed now that we have low power mode on this 2021 14-inch M1 Pro. So I'm gonna go and disable that, but even with low power mode, it sucked more power than the M2 in auto. All right guys, we have Geekbench 5 opened up right here, and the first thing I wanna point out is look at that clock speed difference. We have 3.2 for the M1 Pro and 3.49 for the M2 Pro. But with that, with the leaked benchmarks, we saw that the M2 Max, some of them showed 3.67. So I wonder, is Apple actually differentiating the CPU performance now between them, where last year you would have the same CPU even with the M1 Pro? We will find out soon. But for now, let's go ahead and run the CPU benchmark. All right guys, wow, even in Geekbench, which is easy, I'm already seeing a difference in temperature, 71 compared to 54. So we'll see what we get in Cinebench. And look at that score right there. We have a 10% increase in single core score, which exactly lines up with just raising the clock speed a little bit higher. So that's just a clock speed difference. And in multi-core, we have a difference of 20%, just like Apple said, and that's because of the clock speeds plus the extra more powerful efficiency cores. Let's see what that difference makes for web browsing performance with all your web-based web-based applications. And here we go, 361 compared to 412. That's a 14% difference, so slightly more. This involves memory and other things as well. And these are incredible scores for both of these. And now we're gonna take it further because this year we are adding a whole nother test for you graphics designers. This is Figma, provided to us by one of the best design agencies, 500 Designs. Let's go ahead and zoom in here and see how smooth that is. So many applications that are now web-based and it's super convenient. And so far, pretty smooth. I do see stuff taking a little bit to refresh here. I don't know, Vadim, does that look any smoother?
Hard to tell.
Hard to tell. I mean, they both have the same amount of RAM, and this is gonna be great for our RAM comparison videos. Let's zoom into one of these pages and see how long it takes to give you full quality. As you guys see, bam, that was a few seconds to load up. We had a little bit of glitchiness. Let's see if the M2 Pro is any better. As you guys see, it is a little smoother. And as far as refreshing and giving us the full quality, it's about the same. And now I selected 12 of these high resolution web pages and we're gonna do an export test. Let's go ahead and get started. All right guys, that is done. And we have 1 minute and 57 seconds for the M1 Pro and 1 minute and 37 seconds for the M2 Pro, which if you do the math, it's a 20% difference. That lines up perfectly to our multi-core at Geekbench. So for you guys that use web-based applications, you will see a 14 to 20% improvement in performance, which is great. So now let's really hit the CPU hards with Cinebench, and I wanna give a shout out to TGFan Pro. We provide him with the analytics from these systems, and they updated the software for us so we can give you guys the best value and the best information. Now before we start our 10-minute throttling test, I'm gonna check the temps. We have 26 Celsius and 26 Celsius, so exactly the same. And now let's get started. So our CPUs are maxed out. It's been running for a little bit. I have my info here, but I want to point out that the new M2 Pro is already at 98, 99 degrees Celsius compared to 92. So definitely heating up more so. Now the clock speed is higher, running at 3.264 megahertz compared to 3.06, about 230, 250 megahertz faster. Now we're hitting 102 on this bad boy, and that is because these do use more power. We have an average of 21.8 watts on the M1 Pro and 26 watts on the M2. That's about 20% more power that is being used for this 3D render. And we have a difference of 103 degrees Celsius compared to 93 degrees Celsius. And with that, our fans are running at the slowest speed for the M1 Pro compared to 3,300 RPM. And it looks like it's still ramping up. So it's been about 7 minutes. Let's check on temps. You guys see those hot spots, and we're looking like 43 is the hottest on the M1 Pro and about 44 on the M2 Pro. Now it looks like the hotspot is more concentrated. That's probably because the thermal block is smaller. So we are almost done with the 10-minute test here, and I do want to say that I don't hear the fans on either systems. So even though the M2 Pro runs hotter and the fans spin up louder, you can't tell. Now with that said, these are the binned-based models. So what's gonna happen if we have the unbinned one, which has 8 performance cores instead of 6, and then what if you throw in extra graphics tasks at the same time? That could get bad. So we're gonna test it out along with the crazy M2 Max chip. Now these just got done right here. We have 9,490 on the M1 and 11,714 on the M2 Pro. Now that is 23% faster under load, which is excellent. That's slightly higher than the quoted performance, and the system, at least this one, was able to handle it. And of course, a part of that performance is because not only do the efficiency cores clock higher, about 350 megahertz higher, we also have 4 instead of 2, which adds up to this. And now let's get into graphics performance. We have 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme in the unlimited mode, and we're gonna see how the new 16-core graphics stack up to 14-core. Right away, I'm seeing that not only do we have extra cores, but it's actually running at 1,398 megahertz compared to 1296, so about 100 megahertz higher clock speed. Now the wattage only went up by 3.5 watts, so it's not that much. And with our scores here, we have 54.9 FPS compared to 67.2. That is 22% better performance, which does seem a little bit underwhelming, but you also have to remember that this is the bin one. We have 2 extra cores compared to that one, whereas the unbinned, which you get for 300 bucks, that actually gives you 3 extra cores compared to the previous unbinned. So you're actually getting 1 extra core for the extra money this year, and it's gonna be a bigger difference in performance. And now let's do a quick GFXBench test because we know that it scales well. And we have our results. I ran both the 1440p and the new 4K test. As far as 1440p, we have 144.4 FPS compared to 180.6 with the M2 Pro. That gives us a 25% improvement, which is slightly better than 3D Mark. And then for the 4K one, we have 63.4 compared to 78.6 FPS, 24% better. So pretty good scaling there. Now we wanted to test Xcode for all of you coders out there, but right now, because of the updates and stuff, it's not running with our terminal, which is the way we benchmark it for consistency. So we will give you guys the scores in another video. But now we're gonna test out Blender 3D rendering performance. We have the classic BMW test, rendering using metal, and let's see what we get. Wow, the M2 Pro is flying through this compared to the M1. I think this one finally was finished. 2 minutes and 3 seconds for the M1 Pro, and 1 minute 25 for the M2 Pro, both binned, and that's a difference of 45%. That is impressive. What do you think, Vadim?
That's killer.
We went from 22%, and now with Blender, that is huge. That is a significant difference, and I'm wondering how much of a difference will we have with the new M2 Pro Unbinned and M2 Max, because we talked about the whole TLB issue, how for high-res files and certain programs, there would be limitations to scaling, and I don't know if this is what's fixing it, but that is very impressive. And now for your photo editors, we're testing out Adobe Lightroom. Now zooming in and switching photos was always pretty quick with both systems. You guys could see we don't have a huge difference. Now another thing I want to test out is all the new AI-based stuff. So right now I'm going to select the sky at the same time. Let's see how long that takes to detect it. And it looks like it took about a second faster with this new one, and that's probably using the neural engine as well. Now, what I'm gonna do is go ahead and export all these, and in the settings, I did make sure that the graphics was enabled. So we have 50, 42 megapixel raw files. All of them are edited with a bunch of changes. We're gonna export to JPEG, and let's see how quick these are. Very interesting here. I'm seeing lower CPU usage when it was spiking up on the M2 Pro here. Now I'm not sure if it's correct, but this one looked like it got done faster. I actually missed that for a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that one more time. Bam, we are off. No distractions this time. All right, this time the M2 Pro did win, but barely. 49 seconds compared to 52. Now, when I looked at Acetop, it did show that we were using swap on both of them. And we know the SSDs are slower here. And being only 3 seconds faster, I would expect more because we obviously saw big differences in CPU and GPU performance with those other benchmarks, but those are not writing files constantly to your SSD while it's doing all that processing. So that's very interesting, and we're gonna look into that more. And now let's take a look at video editing. Now, even the M1 Pro had no issues with regular 4K compressed footage. Here I have a couple LUTs, I have film grain applied, no issues whatsoever. But what I'm curious about is, will it be faster to export and as far as general processing? I'm gonna go ahead and export this 5-minute project. Let's hit save and start our timer. All right guys, so it looks like we are not getting any performance difference for encoding 4K video files that are compressed. 94% on both, 95, it's exactly the same, and the limitation are the actual encoders there. So 2 minutes, 22 seconds, practically exactly what we got before. Now, of course, this is easier. We're not limited by the graphics or the CPU, just encoders, and Apple, they have not changed them, at least on this system. So if you're working with simple 4K, it's probably not worth upgrading, but what if you make it harder? This is 4K ProRes RAW that is graded, and we're gonna export to ProRes because these systems do have dedicated encoders for that. And let's hit save. So these machines are flying through this, and it looks like the M2 Pro is faster, but not by that much. The M2 is limited by graphics, and here, we're almost maxing it out, but not all the way. That was super quick on both systems. And we have a difference of 1 minute and 8 seconds for the M1 Pro and 1 minute and 3 seconds for the M2 Pro. So what, 5 seconds difference or so? Very, very little difference. That's a little bit underwhelming because for a lot of YouTubers, a lot of people that use these systems, you're doing photo editing, video editing, and we're just not seeing a massive difference like we did in those benchmarks and other tasks. So we will be doing more testing on systems that don't have the slower SSD speed to see how much of a difference we have there, digging into more programs and more tests and tougher things as well than these tests that we did for this base binned 14-inch comparison. You guys let us know what was the most interesting thing for you? What surprised you? Are you okay with the SSD thing? What about those temperatures? But lastly, let's go ahead and check out our battery life differences. We had tough usage where the M2 Pro used more wattage, but then the lighter stuff, we have the efficiency core. So I'm very curious. And it looks like we have 33% battery life remaining during all this time, which is still pretty good. Let's check out on the M2 Pro, and that is 43% on there. So a 10% extra bonus in battery life, which for light usage, that could be an extra hour right there, even though we did a bunch of benchmarks and tough tests and hit it hard. So those efficiency cores are definitely coming in handy. So there you guys go. Don't forget to watch the other ones, the previous ones and the ones after this in comments for a chance to win the 14-inch MacBook Pro or a Mac Mini. Check out one of those great videos right over there. This has been Max, and I'll see you in the next one.